Hey everyone, I'm Marianne Mitchell, founder of Whole Artist Mastery, and I want to welcome you to the Whole Artist Mastery YouTube channel. We talk about the importance of your authentic voice and how that enables you to make really compelling work, and then what it is that you want to offer both yourself and the world through your artwork. So today I'm going to be talking about something that's really been on my mind lately through conversations I've been having with artists who are working with me in mentorship programs, as well as colleagues, friends, other people who are in the art world, about what constitutes a good painting. What makes a painting bad? And really, who's to say? So in this discussion, I'm going to be profiling a few artists that most of you will know, and one of them will be me, and telling stories about their artwork, this particular piece that I've chosen from each artist, and who's really determining whether it's good or bad, and threading the line between a subjective point of view and an objective understanding of what good art really is, if there is such a thing. So I look forward to sharing some comments with you after we look at these paintings together. I'm actually starting off with a sculptor, a Romanian sculptor named Constantine Brancusi, who was making work around the turn of the 20th century, and this piece is called Bird in Space. It's bronze, and he created it in 1928. The reason I'm starting off with this is that I find the story associated with this piece rather interesting. It arrived from Paris in 1926, and the American customs, obviously all art has to go through customs, everything has to go through customs, and it was being sent as a piece of artwork, and the American Customs Service did not deem this artwork. And so it became a subject of a huge courtroom battle. I think it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the question really boiled down to what is art? And who's to say it is art? And the sculptor says it's art. The French museum who is sending it to the United States says it's art, but the museum in the United States believes it's a great piece of artwork. It was going to the Museum of Modern Art, but the customs people did not see this as a piece of artwork. But at the same time, they were completely unable to figure out what category it could be under. Is it something that is a tool? Is it, I think they were completely thrown by the material and by the fact that it has no functional use. So I find that a very interesting example of who's calling the shots here in terms of what is art, let alone whether it's good or not. The first thing you have to do is make a determination whether it is art. And that question goes on even today and will go on for the rest of time, the rest of humanity's time on this earth. We're going to move on to this particular painting, which I think probably almost every American knows this painting. This is Christina's World, painted by Andrew Wyeth, and this was painted in 1948. The reason I'm including this painting is that when Alfred Barr, who was the founding director of the Museum of Modern Art, saw this painting, he decided that it was worth showing and brought it into the museum. It was first shown in a gallery in New York, which really, it did not garner very much attention. But when Alfred Barr saw it, he decided that it was something that should be part of the museum collection, and slowly over time, he built an awareness of the importance of this painting to the point where it is the most ubiquitous American painting image. that across our country at this point, or there may be more at this point, but and because of that commercial branding of Andrew Wyeth in this painting, many artists have eschewed him, including the art world and many critics, as a painter not worth paying attention to, as a painter without much intellectual or critical heft, shall we say, because the critics really panned him because he was painting during the abstract expressionist era, and who wants to look at paintings like this? However, I do believe, in my own opinion, that Andrew Wyeth was one of the greatest painters of the 20th century, precisely because he was capturing his emotional connection, his emotional reaction, his emotional depth in the stories he was telling, and that the stories he wanted to tell in his paintings were very emotionally close to him. And he was doing that through a tremendously strong sense of composition that actually presents as an abstract way of looking at the world. And his particular use of his chosen medium, which is egg tempera paint, he used meticulously to capture a real mystery and mood in his works. And so I invite you to go do some research on the story behind this painting and many of his paintings, and you will find that there was great depth, both employed in the emotional expression, in his compositional decision making, and his painting technique. So we're going to move on to Willem de Kooning. This also is a very well-known painting. This is one of the paintings he did in his Woman series, and I must confess, the first time I saw this, I thought it was just an awful painting. Who would ever want to put this on their wall? And who would ever think that this is worth spending much time looking at? So I will say that educating myself about the artist's work that you're looking at, and deciding that it's worth your time to learn about the great artists of any period of time in history, in this case in the mid-century of the 20th century, the abstract expressionist movement. I read the biography by Mark Stevens and Anna Lynn Swan called De Kooning, An American Master, which was a seminal point in my development as an artist after reading this, because I saw in myself some correlations to the very universal experience of being a serious artist, of being an artist who's painting from the well of emotion and trying to employ strong compositional structure. And if you study this painting closely, you can see that there's a very strong structure to the composition, and his expressions of his feelings about women, and even commentary on what it is to be a woman and his relationship to women, is very evident. And it brought me to a point of great appreciation of this particular painting, or of the particular series that he made called The Woman. And would I want to hang this on my wall? Probably still the answer would be no, but I've come to greatly appreciate the strength and the boldness and the depth of expression in this particular painting. So is it good? I leave that for you to judge. Next, we have Ellsworth Kelly, who painted, was well known in the conceptual art movement. This was painted in 1964. The title of this is aptly Red, Blue, and Green, or another combination of those three colors in the title. Might be blue, red, and green, or green, red, and blue. I'm sorry, I forget. But that's really not the point. The point is that up until I heard Ellsworth Kelly speak about his work in the late 80s or early 90s, the 20th century, I really didn't get it. I mean, I would look at his work and just scratch my head and say, why is this in the museum? It makes me feel absolutely nothing. But when I heard Ellsworth Kelly talking about his great passion and quest to distill everything that he sees and feels in his life down to the minimal essence of shape and color, I got it. And he does that. It's very primary. It's, there's absolutely no nuance in the color. The shapes are very elegant in their way and simple. And it's very, very minimalistic. And he was one of the great artists of the minimalist era. Is it good? I'll leave that for you to judge. Next, we have my painting, and this is a watercolor, and it's about 22 by 30 inches, and I created this in 1981, right out of art school. And I went off to the Vermont Studio Center a couple of years later, still painting in this particular style, and it was the very first session of the Vermont Studio Center ever, and I was in it was the first year, and I was in the very first session of the first year, so we were all guinea pigs. But one of the critics was a very well-esteemed New York landscape painter, Paul Resica, who, I don't even know if he's still alive, but he lived for long. Back then, he looked like he was 80, so he was a very demanding and powerful presence, and he would come in and talk to me, and at one point he said, I don't even know why you're here. You're not a painter. This isn't painting. This is just design. This has nothing to do with painting. I don't know why you're here. Well, you can imagine how that made me feel. And I felt like I was the worst painter on earth, and that I had absolutely no talent, and that this was such an aberration from what I was supposed to be painting that it nearly knocked me off my path entirely. And yet, I kept on painting because I had to. I was driven to. And as I always say to people who work with me, you don't choose to be a painter. It chooses you. And now as I look back on this 40 some odd years later, I actually think it's quite a good painting. Does it make me feel something deeply? Probably not. I mean, it makes me feel something because I have a connection to it. I think it's a very well composed painting, and I happen to think that I was using watercolor in a very innovative way. And, some other time I'll get into the particular process, because this is really about, is it good? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. So I hope this little illustration was illuminating for you. And really what I think it illustrates is that the more we know what an artist is expressing, why they are compelled to say what they're saying in their work, where they're coming from, what the concept is, what the emotional expression is, how they're using their medium, approaches to composition, the more we have an understanding of where an artist is coming from, the more information we have to decide whether we feel it's good or whether we feel it's falling short of that mark, or whether we even have the validity to, whether it's valid for us to say whether it's good. We may not like it, but the artist might find that it's exactly what it is that they want to have their work be like. Who's really to say? Who gets to be the critic here? so many critics I've read, art critics, I completely disagree with what they're saying, but they're deemed the official voices, and so therefore we need to believe them, right? Well, I would love to hear your comments, so please write me in the comment box below this video and let me know what you think. And at the same time, please like the video and subscribe to the Whole Artist Mastery YouTube channel. It really helps to spread the word about what it means to own your voice, make compelling work, and understand how you show up in the world as an artist. That's what Whole Artist Mastery is really all about. So I invite you to go to the website, check out the various classes that are offered. We have a free discussion time. It's called Wham Wednesday, and the next discussion time is Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. So please put your email in, subscribe, and you will receive the recording for that discussion the following day. So thanks again. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.